Good morning and welcome to Innovate Mound 201. My name is Nate Ford, Director of Public Engagement for HNTB and a member of the project team. Of course, we would prefer to be holding this meeting in person like we did our first one. However, a virtual meeting keeps everyone safe. We have 90 minutes, and although we may finish early, we will stay on the whole time to talk to everyone. Here's the meeting format. First, we will hear from Brian Santo, the director of the Macomb County Department of Roads. Then our project team will give a presentation on Innovate Mound that includes updates since we last presented to you. And finally, we will open the floor for a Q&A segment. All attendees will be muted until we reach the Q&A segment. You can submit your questions throughout the presentation by clicking the Q&A function on the bottom center of your screen. If you called in, we will take your questions following the presentation. There are project displays and the full presentation at www.innovatemound.org to view the following presentations. Again, that is www.innovatemound.org for everyone on the phone. Or if you're joining us through a computer, you can scan the QR code that looks like a barcode that is placed on the screen, and it will take you to the website. Before we move on, I would like everyone to take a couple minutes to complete the Title VI survey that is posted in the chat box. You will find the survey in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. This survey helps us to assess our outreach efforts among those who are affected by or interested in the project. It is required as a part of the Title VI Civil Rights Act of 1964. We will take a couple minutes to complete the survey before we get started.
It should actually just pop up on everyone's screen.
Now, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Brian Santo, the director of the Macomb County Department of Roads. Brian?
Good morning, and thank you, Nate, for that warm welcome. And thank you all for joining us today. Innovate Mound is a virtual information week to share updates on the project and gather important feedback from the community at large. You are critical to the success of this project, and we thank you for your time and effort to date. As you know, Innovate Mound seeks to build a better road that is pedestrian friendly and enabled with smart technology. Now, what does that mean? It means traffic flow improvements, enhanced use of public space, iconic signs and features, non-motorized multi-use paths, improved pedestrian access, and improved transit stops. As you know, Macomb County continues to be a center for innovation. We will have intelligent transportation systems, smart traffic signals and signs, continued connected vehicle pilot projects, real-time speed monitoring, and emerging mobility features. Macomb County is home to one of the most densely packed manufacturing corridors in the United States. It is an economic powerhouse that supports more than 200,000 jobs in Macomb County and across the state. Upon its completion, Mound Road will be a world-class, state-of-the-art corridor that will be used the latest technology to create an innovative, efficient, and safer roadway for all users. The team is making great progress on the Innovate Mound project, and I will turn it over to them as provide an update in a little bit. Right now, we have completed about 30% of the new road design. We've done this with input from many residents, businesses, other stakeholders, and of course, the cities of Sterling Heights and Warren, who have shared their thoughts and ideas with us. The feedback to date, and any that you can offer us today, will be critical to us to make the corridor work for everyone. Next spring, we will be seeking a contractor who will be responsible for both completing the design and building the new Mound Road. The procurement process has started with a request for qualifications issued to the industry this past summer. The plan is to begin construction by the summer of 2021 next year. The selected contractor will confirm important details such as the exact date that the construction will begin, where it will begin, and how it will progress, plus other details of how traffic will be maintained during construction. We expect to be able to give you this information by late spring of next year, 2021. Now, I would like to introduce our project team who will provide you an in-depth overview of Innovate Mound. John Crum, the Director of Planning for the Macomb County Department of Roads and Project Manager for the county, who will kick off the presentation. Regine Buboff, Vice President for HNTB and the Project Manager for Innovate Mound. In addition, Steve Griffith, Senior Resident Engineer for HNTB and the Project Engineer for Innovate Mound. And now I'll turn it over to John Crum.
Oh, John, I think you're on mute.
Good morning and welcome to this public meeting for Innovate Mound. I'm glad that you're here today and that you've taken the time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Today we will provide a brief overview of our project, where we've been and where we are now, as we've worked very hard in the design and research phase. As we progress along, we will have a few speakers, but remember that this project is made up of many people that include elected officials, full-time staff at the Macomb County Road Department and Macomb County, staff at Sterling Heights and Warren, and of course, multiple consultants and people who are experts in their field who have volunteered to provide us information. So with that, I'll turn it over to Regine.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. The HNTB team, we met with you just to also go over what was said just briefly. We met with you last year in February of 2020. That was just before the pandemic hit. But we were very lucky because in doing so, we had a chance to really talk to you, explain to you what we had done to date, the data that was collected, and how we were going to use it and use your input to come up with the best project that we can actually deliver, complete and deliver for you. But I'd like to take a few steps back just to really frame the conversation and also remind us of what this project entails. We are looking at the reconstruction of Mound Road from 11 Mile Road to M59 to the north. That's approximately 9 miles of reconstructed pavement. But also I should remind you that we also are widening from 17 Mile Road to M59 to have a consistent 4-lane facility on each side, northbound and southbound, northbound and southbound from the project southern terminus to its northern one. And so as a result of that, the outcome of the project will be not just a reconstructed smooth pavement that you will be enjoying driving on, but we will also have improved safety improvements, increase the traffic flow so that you experience less congestion as you travel the roadway. We are also, you're going to experience a more pleasant facility because the landscaping that we will be also adding to the project and also making the lighting that we see nowadays on Mound Road is on both sides, sometimes in the median. We are going to present a unified, consistent lighting in the median from south to north. And so that is also, we want to make sure that we not only address the concerns of the the vehicular traffic, but we want to make sure that Mound Road, the improvement Mound Road is also a safe and friendly facility for pedestrians and other users. And so we've done that. We've also, in doing so, we've also improve accessibility to the transit system around Mound Road, which is located on the crossroads and also on Van Dyke, a mile further, a mile over to the east side. And as Brian mentioned, we're talking also about the innovative mobility features that we've also added to the project and that you will see in more detail as we move into the presentation. So a brief recap on how this project came about. If you remember in 2016, John briefly alluded to that, we had a coalition of private and public organizations that came together, decided to really do something about Mound Road. Because I think it was worse. It was actually, there was an article in the Free Press back then in 2016 that described Mound Road as one of the worst roads in Southeast Michigan. And so the community came together, the private sector, the public agencies, the cities, to really lobby and apply for a federal grant to the U.S. Department of Transportation. And so in 2018, as a result of all these efforts, Macomb County was awarded the largest infra grant ever given to a local agency to reconstruct and modernize and innovate Mound Road. And so since then, we've been working hard. First of all, there was a first phase, a short phase in 2019, where we worked to bring the money, the county worked to bring the money from DC into Michigan so they could tap into it to deliver the project. And since August of 2019, we've been busy at work, really planning the project, doing the engineering, the 30% that Brian mentioned earlier, and also the environmental work necessary to allow us to move into construction. So we've been busy doing that. And also we started the procurement process so that in 2021 in the summer, you will see some shovel in the ground. The goal is to construct in 2021, 2022 and 2023 with some minor work remaining in 2024. Remember, the grant expires in June of 2024, so all work that we do must fit within that time frame. And so that tells you about the level of effort that has gone into this project and the collaboration needed by all to do that. So, so we want to also take the opportunity today to thank our partners. As I just mentioned, it takes a lot of work and collaboration to do all of this intense work that brings us to this point today. And so I want to, Macomb County wants to also acknowledge the cities of Sterling Heights and the city in Warren who are actually participating in the financing this project. MDOT that is providing technical and administrative oversight of this project, as well as the U.S. Department of Transportation that is involved in, especially when it comes to the environmental and the planning work and adherence to the grant. And also, there is SEMCOG, the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments that has been very helpful in making sure that this project is actually on the transportation plan for Southeast Michigan and the state of Michigan. But I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge all the other partners that we have also that have worked along us. We're talking about the Emerging Mobility, the Innovation Council. The director mentioned the innovation work that is being done along the corridor, and to help us in doing that, we called upon 28 agencies and all private organizations that volunteered and gave time to really identify areas where we could innovate and the technology that could be used, implemented on this corridor. We want to thank them and acknowledge them today. But especially, we want to thank the local stakeholders, the community members, the businesses who have worked and come along with us on this process. We've talked to you. Your input has been valuable in bringing us here today. So we want to acknowledge and thank you for that. And so we were talking about that just to illustrate how much of your time you've given us. The project team held 86 plus close to 90 individual meetings with a wide range of you where we've collected your thoughts, your ideas, your concerns to perfect the Innovate Mound. We had community-wide event. We participated in fairs, in other types of partnerships with chambers of commerce and others. We had 2 large access management workshops to allow us to improve the access on Mound Road and improve flow of circulation on Mound Road. And that was followed because of the pandemic by 30+ individual meetings with property owners along the corridor. And in February, we actually had this large meeting that we mentioned earlier that was right before the pandemic, but we were lucky enough to do it and actually gather all your input for the project. And so just to give you an idea about how this project has engaged all of you, and also for those, and very often for those of you who often ask, well, how does my input matter? Why are you asking me? Am I going to actually be able to make a difference? I just wanted to illustrate for you one such example where the input from the community has resulted in improvements to the project that answers specific concern that they had. We met with the HEATHDALE residents last winter because they had concerns about sometimes having to wait 20 minutes or longer to really be able to to leave, to egress their neighborhood, because HEATHDALE Avenue is a dead-end street with only one entrance and exit on Mound Road. And so we met with them one evening and we went over their concerns, identified some of the reasons why they really had a problem. We talked about potential solutions, but we promised to go back and study them in more details to be able to really gauge what was really identified the cause of these problems and bring solutions that were holistic in nature. So this collaborative process, and then we ended up with solutions that we were able to mail to everyone and tell them that's the result of it, and expect to see that implemented when on Mound Road when it is built. So this collaborative process actually helped us to resolve a long-standing issue in the community that could only be resolved really with working with you. And so now what I want to do, as after I give you the example though, is to tell you a little bit more about what we've been up to since we met the last time. And so the project status, what are the next steps? What are we embarking upon after this weeks of events? So those are all the areas that I think everybody mentioned earlier to you about where we are on each of those. And then of course, we expect to have in the spring a design build team, a contractor and a designer that will complete the projects with the construction in 2021. And so on the next, when mentioned about the environmental, I wanted to give you a brief overview of each of those what have we done and what is expected next. So on the environmental analysis, if you look at the resources, we had to evaluate all these resources, and the result of our analysis is included in what we call an enhanced categorical exclusion that is about 1,300 pages that was delivered to MDOT and FHWA for their review. They came back with minor comments and we're addressing those comments. And this document is about to go back to the state and the Federal Highway Administration for final approval. Final approval of the environmental process is a requirement before the project can actually move into the next phase of design and construction. So we expect to have a signed and approved one by the end of this year. So next thing we've actually done on the project, you heard me mention access management earlier. And what is really access management? Mound Road is a free access roadway. And as such, it's not like a freeway where you only have access controlled at specific locations. And so what it means is that over the years, the land use around Mound Road has evolved. It has changed based on population, demands, and the needs of the community. So what was built 40 years ago for the traffic at the time and for the land use that surrounded it at the time is not quite working as it was meant to be. And so what it means is that when you have a lot more driveways, you have crossovers located now in areas where they conflict with driveway movements, people entering or existing driveways, you don't have the potential for more incidents on the roadway that results in congestion and all of that. So on Mound Road, what we've done, we've identified, on the next slide, you will see that what we've done, we've identified those areas where really we identified those areas where the public, the users were experiencing the largest number of crashes. We looked at the intersection delays on the, at the traffic lights, at the lights, how long does it take for the traffic to clear? And so we were able to actually identify what those hotspots were along the corridor. And just to give you an idea, you'll see, you can see more of that. We realized there are a few things also for the driveways. Very often we have a multitude of driveways that are built next to each other. And we tried in as much as possible to consolidate that. So that way you only have one line, one entrance, and less potential for rear ends, etc. So that's one thing we looked at. We also looked at the driveways, geometrics, how they were built. They were built maybe a few years back before we had all those large trucks turning into them. And so we're looking at improving. So we are updating and modernizing those accesses so that we build them to standard. And then finally, what we also looked at is those crossover locations. So when we mentioned HEATHDALE earlier, the reason why HEATHDALE, so when we mentioned HEATHDALE, one of the problems was that if you look at the orange arrows, people were trying to cross over practically 5 lanes of traffic and cross over 4 lanes on the other side to enter because the crossover, the location was right there at the, so by moving it further south, what we were able to do is to give people time to cross over and in a more safe, in a safe way to move over and enter the crossover to go back onto the northbound. So that's an example. And that's also what you can see also, there is another one north of 18 Mile Road where we also have to relocate. And as a result of that, you will see lesser amount, incidents on the roadway. So those are just 2 examples that we have presented here. There are many more cases there are other cases on other locations where we've worked on that. So we mentioned earlier that one of the main exercises that we've also done was to look at not just how poor the pavement is, but also how is traffic really moving, flowing on Mound Road, and how with the traffic expecting population growth occurring in Macomb County, and how is Mound Road going to be able to continue to serve the public adequately. And so we looked at, there is what we call the level of service. The level of service really is a way that quantitatively and in an objective way we can measure how long it takes you to cross or to travel a roadway and how long you stay at an intersection. And that determines whether or not you have excellent level of service, which is A, or you have really poor level of service, which is F. Most of the time you will really be between B and E and F, but this is a way that tells us if we proposed improvements on the roadway, this is what, and we can measure if what we're proposing to do actually is effective and efficient at solving the problem. So what we've done is taking a look at Mound Road itself. And so we determine, first of all, how does the facility, because everything is based on comparison, you have to have a benchmark. So how does it work today? In 2019, when you're traveling Mound, what does it feel like to travel it in the morning hours, during the commute time? And that's what we call the peak period, the peak hour. The peak period in the morning on Mound Road goes from 6:15 to 9:15. So that means that's when you have the most traffic, the most congestion on Mound Road. The hour is probably just 1 hour within that, the one in the middle, we took it 7:30 to 8:15, I'm sorry, 7:15, but this is what it means. And so we've observed those areas that were really congested. And we've done the same exercise for the afternoon peak, which is when commuting people are coming, going back home or leaving work, etc. So we've identified those areas that were problem areas, and like the 3 lanes in each direction between 17 Mile and M59. So it reinforced that adding a 4th lane onto, it wasn't just enough to reconstruct the 3 lanes north of 17 Mile, but we also needed to widen it. And so at the bottom of the table, of the slide, what you will see is, this is how long it takes us to go from on the northbound, if you're traveling north, from Stevens Road, which is just north of 9 Mile Road, to Utica, West Utica Road, which is just which is north of M59. So in the morning, it takes about 17 and a half, minutes. In the afternoon, 22 minutes. And then you can see in the afternoon, you have 19.4 and then 20.4. So that gives you an idea about how long it takes. So now let's see, now if we do nothing we leave Mound Road as it is. So let's see what happens in 2050. Because this type of improvement, of investment, needs to last us at least until 2050. And so let's take a look and let's just really compare. So you can see now that we go in the morning from 17 and a half, from 19.4 to 19.8 and 30.3. So 30 minutes. So we have an increase of practically 10 minutes of time of delay on the roadway. And in the afternoon, you can see at the bottom part how much time it takes to travel Mound Road. That's in the year 2050 if we do nothing. So now, having identified those areas that you see on the left as problem areas, so we went back and proposed solutions. And as part of the solutions, we were like, okay, we have new traffic signal technology, okay, that improve, we optimize the signal so that the coordination and progression of traffic, flows better and with less interruptions. We also signalize some crossovers on 16 Mile, which are actually outside of Mound Road, but we realized that you cannot treat Mound Road as a separate system. It also works along with, in close proximity with those 500, 600 feet on each side of the major Mile Road. So we realized there was something to be done there. We've added the 4th lane. We've relocated and consolidated some crossovers to improve that. So what does happen? So what you see on the right side is what happens on the existing. Today we have 17 and a half. If we do nothing, then we're talking about 19.8. And then, if we build better, if we reconstruct better, we're able to shave off some minutes, that's in the AM. But if you look at the southbound, and then you also look at the afternoon peak, afternoon commute traffic, you see that there are some significant time shaved off those, that time it takes to travel. So that's part of what we want to do. Yes, we could shave more if we were to add more lanes, if we had more capacity, if we closed off, access, but that wasn't the point of the project. The project was to really optimize the space that we had, the work we were doing in the existing footprint, the right-of-way that was already owned by the county, to really optimize what could be done to bring that up to something that was much better, and that would work for until 2050. So that gives you an idea and on where we are. So now we talked a little bit about that's related to the cars, the trucks that are traveling the roadway, and I'm sure the manufacturing world will be happy to also know that their trucks and hunt times, will actually be able to travel and be expected to arrive on time at their facilities. Now let's talk a little bit about what happens now for pedestrians. How did we improve safety and access for pedestrians? One of the things we've done during our field review to determine the existing conditions, to assess where we were, when we walked the Mound Road, we realized there were a lot of trails. People had been walking, especially on the west side. A lot have been walking even though there are no sidewalks. The people have been walking, the grass was gone. And so that tells us that people are using that west side. And of course, the reason being that behind that wall of commercial establishments, you can see there are residential neighborhoods on the west side. And people are walking because sometimes they get off the bus or they want to access Mound Road to go to restaurants or commercial business. And so they're walking that. So as a result of that, we determined that building a continuous from north to south, where, or now, however, on the west side of Mount, building a system where we had sidewalk going continuously from north to south was a major improvement for pedestrian traffic. And that's really one of the things we proposed on that. And we had gotten some feedback as well during that time. And then what else did we do? We also looked at how easy it is now to cross Mound roads. And we realized there were some improvements also needed to allow pedestrians and other users to feel comfortable walking across. And so what we have enhanced, or signals with pedestrian signals to allow you to push a button. And when you need to travel to make it safer, we've also highlighted those areas that we were crossing to make it safer, so it's visible to cars and pedestrians and other users as well. But there are about 5 locations along the roadway where we determined that there were a lot more pedestrian foot traffic than at other places. So we decided, well, this is a good area to really also enhance visually, because we have more people using it, but it's also an opportunity to make it more aesthetically pleasing. And so those are the ones that you see identified on the right side of the slide. So those are the things that we've done. But the landscape, the aesthetic treatment that you've seen doesn't just end at the intersections where all of people are crossing. We have developed a plan to make the entire facility a more pleasant one. We also know that where people stop and cross, they have more of a chance to really sit, look and around and enjoy the view, right? So we talked about iconic earlier. Mr. Sento described iconic signs. So what you see here is at some intersections, we have some lights that are iconic along the roadway. And we also have different, we've also proposed some landscape with different vegetations. And the reason is also we wanted to capture on the next slide, you'll see that a lot better. Where we're trying to really keep Mound Road very colorful and greening at all times. So you'll see some plants that are very colorful in this fall time that really add to the beauty of fall. And you also notice that we have a lot of evergreens to make sure that we do have some greens along the roadway. They do, and so that's what you see here in terms of the landscape. And so I want to also focus your attention on the historic village of Warren. This is a very unique spot along Mound Road because it sits in an historic village. And so what we want to do is to develop a plan that really met the aesthetic needs of and be context sensitive. Like I say, we wanted to be sensitive to the context in historic village. And so we propose a more classic landscape. You'll see 2 rows of plants, but one of the things you will notice also is at Arden Avenue, what we have done, we realize this is something that where function meets the form. What we've realized is that between 13-mile roads and 14-mile roads, there were a lot more incidents. There were a lot of congestion. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have a multitude of traffic signals, and it's very hard to really optimize them so that people can just cross them at one time. In addition, when you have the school system in Warren that is also exiting and all the buses are coming along, south of Arden, you also have St. Anne's School coming, and then all of that together really caused all those conflicts in traffic movements, and the proximity of the signals really caused for a lot of congestion in this area. So what we've done, we've proposed to do, and that has shown improvement on how the traffic operates. We've actually cut off Arden to 2 movements. So if you go now, you're on Arden Avenue and you want to access the other side, you probably have to go a short distance on North Mound Road and take the crossover and return. So cars can no longer go through on the median. However, what we've done, we've still added the signal for pedestrians, and we've made it more pleasant and safer also, and better for pedestrians and other users to cross over by having this what you see here on the north and south, south part, not the south, the top and the bottom part of the thing. So Arden is a location where we had a lot of incidents, and in doing so, we think we're going to be, we have a much safer facility at that location, and it's going to be more pleasant as well. So having really talk about what you will see when you travel, I'm going, Steve Griffith, who is our deputy project manager and will be responsible for the construction of this project, is going to describe what we have done in addition to that to make sure the project is constructible, is feasible when it comes to the engineering part of it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Regine. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks again for taking time out of your busy schedules, especially here at lunchtime, to listen to the progress made to date on the Innovate Mound project as we prepare to move into the next phase of the project. First task we were assigned from Macomb County was to start to develop engineering plans for the project. This is a corridor map of the Innovate Mound project. Shows the 9 miles of reconstruction within the corridor. Also to the north end of the project, from 17 Mile to M59, we are widening the roadway from 3 lanes in each direction to 4 lanes. The roadway will be widened to the outside. Macomb County had purchased the right-of-way prior to construction of the project, so right-of-way was in place for that widening of the project. And there's also 6 structures within the corridor that we have proposed work. On the south end of the project near 696, there's the Bear Creek, which is a 25-foot diameter corrugated metal pipe built in the 1960s that's being replaced as part of this project. Working your way north near Chicago Road, there's the Mound Road Bridge over Red Run Drain. This is an existing bridge, single structure that we are rehabilitating as part of this project. Just doing some deck patching and minor rehab to the structure. There's the Big Beaver Creek, which is a 3-sided arch culvert that is being rehabilitated as part of this project. Moving north between 15 and 16 Mile, there's the Sterling Relief Drain, which is twin box culverts that are doing substructure patching of those as well as part of this project. Then at the north end of the job, between 18 and 18.5 Mile, there are the northbound and southbound Mound Road bridges over Plumbrook Creek. Those structures are being widened to accommodate the 4th lane of traffic we're adding, as well as deck patching and some minor rehab to the structures. Also for the southbound Mound Road Bridge, we are widening that to accommodate to have a 8-foot sidewalk along the bridge that will be protected with a barrier between traffic in the sidewalk. So moving on, one of the first tasks we were assigned was to go out and complete project readiness. Project readiness includes the preliminary data collection activities necessary to begin the development of the roadway and bridge plans. This included detailed scoping studies of the existing roadway, as well as bridge scoping of the structures to determine the appropriate repair work necessary for each bridge. Also, we conducted a comprehensive drainage study of the entire corridor to make sure that the existing storm sewer system had adequate capacity for the increased drainage area with the widening of the roadway. One of the first tasks we completed was survey work in the corridor. We completed a LiDAR scan to develop a detailed survey of the existing roadway. That information is used to develop 3D models for both the existing and final roadway conditions. Also did a comprehensive utility pickup survey, identifying utility locations in the field and providing that information to the design builder. We also did a storm sewer 3D connectivity model for the entire corridor. So we went out in the field, opened up drain structures to find pipe inverts and shot pipe inverts throughout the corridor. That allows us to model the underground storm sewer system in a 3D environment, which will be provided to the design builder to help eliminate any potential conflicts with the design plans. We also completed a detailed right-of-way survey of the entire corridor to identify any sidewalk easements or grading permits necessary to complete the construction of the roadway. With the geotechnical investigation, we then went out and completed pavement coring to determine the pavement thickness and underlying base material. And that has allowed us to develop a proposed pavement section that will last the 30 to 50 year life cycle of the pavement based on both current and future traffic demands. We completed structure borings at the bridges to identify underlying base material at the structures and define foundation design criteria for those bridges. We also completed traffic signal borings throughout the corridor to make sure that we provide information for the design builder to design traffic signal foundations for the new mass arm poles going out within the corridor. We completed a contaminated materials survey of the corridor. First, we completed a project area contamination survey where we pull historic property records for all properties within the corridor, identifying any manufacturing facilities or also any fuel or gas stations that may have any underlying contaminated material that was expended out into the roadway. Based on that survey information, we then go out and complete a project site investigation where we go out and sample material from the site based on the results of the PAC study. Those samples are then taken to a laboratory for testing to determine contamination levels in the underlying soils. That allows us to develop proper handling and disposal requirements for any contaminated materials could be encountered during the project. Finally, we completed a utility investigation of the corridor. There's over 16 private utilities along the corridor, as well as public utilities, including both the city of Sterling Heights and the city of Warren, water main, sanitary storm sewer systems. So we initially began with outreaching to all companies to get their as-built utility plans. We then combined all utility plans we received into a comprehensive utility map, overlaying the existing roadway and storm sewer system. This process allowed us to identify areas of potential conflict within the corridor. And based on those areas we identified for conflicts, we then went out and completed actual field verification of utility locations. So we went out and shot locations in the field with engineer grade survey to locate the utilities, also excavating down to the top of the utility to get the elevation of those utilities as well. This information was then plugged into our design files and provided to the design builder just to help expedite design and eliminate any potential utility conflicts before they're encountered out in the field. So moving on, we went into the engineering of the roadway. This includes development of 30% base plans, identifying the geometric improvements along the corridor, including access management improvements and traffic operational improvements, including relocation of some of the crossovers within the corridor, also widening some turn lanes, specifically the northbound Mound Road turn lane to Metro Parkway, and then lengthening the turnway or the right turn lane for northbound Mound at 12 Mile. We developed a new concrete pavement and base section for the corridor, completed drainage studies for the projects, identifying locations for all cross leads and drain structures to be removed and replaced in the corridor, as well as identifying repair areas for the existing trunk storm sewer that's to remain. We completed bridge scoping for all the bridges within the corridor, as well as completed structure studies and hydraulic analysis for the structures being replaced or widened as part of the project. We also developed criteria for traffic signal designs, permanent signing and permanent pavement marking requirements, as well as ITS and innovative technology to be included in the project. So the next slide shows the proposed cross-section for the roadway. You can see you have 4 lanes in each direction. So you have a consistent corridor from 696 to M59. You also have a improved median aesthetics. You have new LED lighting in the median that's consistent throughout the corridor. The overhead utility power lines that were running parallel to Mound Road in the median, those are being relocated to the outside lanes or outside of Mound Road. You still have utility crossings overhead of Mound, but they will not be running parallel within the Mound corridor. So this section shows our new proposed high performance concrete pavement with a new open graded drainage course, base material, and a new under drain system, which will provide positive drainage for the pavement, protecting it from accelerated deterioration from the freeze thaw cycles we experience here in Michigan. We're also installing new storm sewer catch basins and drainage structures within the corridor, as well as new cross lead storm sewer systems. We're rehabilitating the trunk storm sewer system that's located in the median of Mound Road, as well as on the outside of the roadway. On the west side of the road, you can see the new proposed 8-foot sidewalk. And then on the east side of the roadway, We have an existing 5-foot sidewalk. We looked at the pedestrian use within the corridor, and there are certain areas where we are connecting sidewalk, but we are not replacing the entire 5-foot sidewalk within the east side of the roadway. So moving on to emerging mobility. Emerging mobility is one of the focuses of the corridor. The Mound Road corridor has a huge economic impact to Macomb County, to a larger extent, all of Southeast Michigan. There are numerous technology, manufacturing, automotive, and defense contractor companies located within the corridor. So we really wanted to reach out to those companies and look at developing an innovation council that looked at opportunities to implement new technologies and make Mound Road a project as the Mound Road project a national showcase. Mound Road will be a transformative corridor of the future, using innovations throughout the planning phase, as well as design, construction, and operations and maintenance. Corridor will be enabled with a framework to serve the future of mobility and allow a test bed for emerging technologies that can improve safety and the convenience in all aspects of modern life. So we looked at the whole global use of the corridor, not just focusing on roadway use, but also pedestrian access, as well as multimodal transportation. So moving on, there were 5 major areas of innovation that we focused on for the Innovate Mound project. This graphic shows those areas with a range of timeframe for each innovation to be implemented, whether it be during the pre-construction phase, running out through future innovations to be tabled and developed further along in the Mound Road process. So for the connected and automated vehicle technologies, we looked at placement of enhanced pavement markings within the corridor that will allow for communication with connected vehicles to help with lane keeping technologies in those vehicles, as well as provide better clarity for pavement markings in adverse weather. There's connected vehicle roadside units that will communicate with vehicles equipped with technology today, as well as future technology such as 5G cellular. And then we also are implementing a smart work zone deployment system that includes portable changeable message boards, as well as speed sensors and CCTV cameras within the corridor that will allow us to quickly resolve any issues during construction and help with the expediting the clearance of any incidents within the construction zone. So for innovations in the design and administration of the project, we looked at a design build approach for delivery. This is a new delivery method that's been developed and utilized in Michigan over the last 10 years and has proven to be successful. And we're also going to have a sharing real-time project information via the project dedicated website and social media. We also are in the process of developing a long-term maintenance plan for Mound Road to make sure that the road is preserved in the newly constructed condition that it is today. We looked at software and data needs throughout the corridor, really looking at how to implement that in the development and delivery of Mound Road. This includes the development of a corridor dashboard for Macomb County that will be tracking travel times throughout the corridor, as well as allowing it to function with the automated traffic signal performance measures to support predictive signal timing and help allow us to adjust signal timing based on peak travel times and usage of the corridor. In addition, we want to make sure that we had a solid foundation for infrastructure and technology moving forward. As technology changes, we want to make sure that we have that backbone in place along the Mound Road corridor to accommodate any future needs as far as technology goes. We're installing traffic sensors within the corridor that will provide travel time data and signal timing updates. We're also installing surveillance cameras within the corridor that will be viewable by the Macomb County Comtech system and help with the clearance of incidents. And a new fiber optic communication backbone will be installed throughout the corridor to accommodate any future data needs moving forward. Final area of innovation was really maintenance and decision-making process. With that, we are putting in a real-time weather system, information system that allows for real-time information on road conditions and will help expedite maintenance of the corridor. So that information will be fed back to the Macomb County maintenance facilities, which they'll then know when maintenance is needed in regards to snow or de-icing and maintenance of traffic. We also are installing pavement sensors within the corridor that will allow the county to proactively maintain and detect deterioration of the roadway, allowing them to repair any deficient materials as they are encountered quickly. So that's just an overview of some of the innovations being implemented in the Innovate Mound project. So the next step of the project is moving into procurement. This is the design build process for the corridor. A design build is a relatively new delivery method and an innovation of itself. This allows the owner to develop preliminary plans, and then we define contract criteria for the design build team, and then complete design and build the project. So we develop design build books that outline all the requirements, both for construction and design of the project. The design builder is then tasked with completing the design and beginning construction, completing construction of the work in the time frame specified in the contract. So the engineering plans and studies we've developed have helped to populate the information in those design build books. Also, that information is provided as reference for the design builder to utilize in their final design of the project. So we are utilizing what's called a two-step design build process. This allows us to account for both quality and price when hiring a design build team. Step one of the process is a selection-based, qualifications-based selection, where we issue a request for qualifications, and then interested parties then submit their statement of qualifications for review and approval. Based off of that information, we then shortlist design build teams down to 2 or 3 of the most qualified teams. And then at that point, we issue the final RFP documents for the design builder to then begin development of their plans and develop a bid price for the project. About 3 months after the RFP is issued, the design builder then will submit a final bid for the project cost. At that point, it is a low bid selection. So this selection process really allows us to take advantage of both quality and price when hiring that design build team. There's also some advantages of a design build method when compared to the traditional design bid build process. For a design build, you're able to transfer risk from the owner, who's responsible for the final design, to the design builder now, who's responsible for the final design. So any design errors or omissions are the responsibility of the design builder to correct. Any costs or delays accounted for that are their responsibility to rectify. There's also a time savings with the design build delivery method. With the traditional design bid build, the contractor does not begin construction until the entire project has been designed and put out for bid. With the design bid build, you have the opportunity for the contractor to begin construction once a phase of the project's been designed, allowing them to account for some overlapping work while the design is still being developed on another portion of the project. The design builder can begin construction. Also, there's the opportunity for increased innovation and cost savings by having that contractor who's responsible for building the job working early in the process with the designer to help develop staging plans and construction sequencing. So moving on, so where we're at now is we have completed the selection of the shortlisted the teams down to 2 teams for the design build process. We're in the process of issuing the final RFP for the design builders to begin their bid process. So next steps, moving on, we're talking about construction and maintenance of traffic. Construction is currently scheduled to begin in the midsummer of 2021 and run through the end of 2023 with the final project completion in 2024. We've developed preliminary maintaining traffic plans that has divided the project into 3 segments with where we've defined the minimum maintaining traffic requirements at all times and access requirements for the design builder to meet. Also, we'll be continuing a focus during construction with communication. We'll have traffic advisories that are shared with stakeholders along the corridor. We also will have a project dedicated website that will provide a status of the project as well as lane closure information and travel time information. Then the project will also have a 24/7 dedicated ombudsman. This will be a staff assigned with a cell phone that they're responsible for answering 24/7. They will be boots on the ground that will be able to quickly resolve any issues specifically involving access or safety. And we'll also be able to provide real information to anybody calling into that line. So moving on to the construction staging. This is the proposed construction staging. It's important to note that this is the proposed staging and that this may change based on the design builders final staging plans and the approval of those, as well as their maintaining traffic plans. So currently we have the job split into 3 segments. Once each segment is completed, during the winter, all lanes will be open to traffic for winter maintenance and to improve mobility during those winter months when travel can be tough. And right now we're looking at 2021. We'll be constructing segment 1, which is from 18 Mile to OVERY Drive. It includes major intersection reconstruction at 19 Mile Road, as well as 18 and 18.5 mile. And includes bridge work at both the northbound and southbound Mound structures over Plumbrook Creek. Work is anticipated to begin in mid-summer of 2021, with work wrapping up into mid-December of 2021. Segment 2 of the project is slated to begin in March 1 of 2022 and run through mid-fall of 2022. This includes reconstruction of 4 miles of Mound Road from approximately 18 Mile Road to 14 Mile Road, and includes the reconstruction of the 17 Mile Road intersection, as well as 16 Mile, 15 Mile, and 14 Mile roads. This includes bridge work at both the Sterling Relief Drain and the Big Beaver Creek. Then in 2023, we'll complete major construction with segment 3, which runs from 14 Mile Road to approximately 11 Mile Road. It includes major intersection reconstructions at 12 Mile, 13 Mile, and Chicago Road. This segment also includes rehabilitation at the Red Run Drain and the removal and replacement of the Big Beaver Creek culvert. So moving on, this is the proposed staging for the various construction segments. The staging is split up into 3 stages for each segment, with stage 1 being closing 1 to 2 lanes of the roadway, maintaining 2 through lanes of traffic in both northbound and southbound Mound on the outside roadway. This is utilized to begin replacement and reconstruction of the existing outside storm sewer and partial construction of the storm sewer cross leads, as well as temporary pavement widening to accommodate future maintaining traffic stages. Then in stage 2, 2 lanes of traffic in each direction will be maintained in the median area via the existing left lane, as well as some of the temporary widening. At that point in time, we'll be reconstructing the outside lanes of traffic and completing the construction of the new storm sewer system. We will also maintain access during construction to all businesses and side streets, either via part width construction or working closely with business owners with multiple driveways to coordinate closures and construction of new driveways and access points within the corridor. We'll also be working on the installation of the sidewalks at this time and beginning the construction of new traffic signal and mass arms. Then in stage 3, traffic will be placed on the new concrete pavement on the outside lanes of traffic, while we close the inside 2 lanes of traffic to reconstruct those 2 inside lanes, as well as the median crossovers. During construction, some of the median crossovers will be closed. However, you'll have a minimum of one crossover per direction per mile between all mile roads. So you'll have 1 northbound to southbound crossover maintained, as well as 1 southbound and northbound crossover maintained. At least one, no more than 1 mile spacing with those between all mile roadways. So that runs through the proposed construction staging. With that, I will turn it over to Nate Ford to go over some of the contact information, ways to reach us, as well as open it up for some Q&A.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, project team. As Steve mentioned, we have various ways of reaching out to us and contacting us. You can contact us by phone at 1-855-MOUND-FOR-YOU, email at info@innovatemound.org, or via website at www.innovatemound.org, or you can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook.